Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here this morning with Mr. John Bula of Groundwork Athletics in Vancouver. He's a super athletic and physical trainer, and we're going to talk about body mass index. How are you doing today, John?
Really good, really good. Just suffering like the rest of us from too much eating and drinking over the holidays, but plan to sort that out soon.
Cool. So 2015, new year, we're going to talk about a kind of bizarre thing, BMI. What is BMI?
Well, I'm sure a lot of you out there, and yourself included, Mark, have heard of BMI, body mass index, and you know, I'm supposed to be at a certain BMI, or I'm considered overweight, this, that, and the other. I just thought I'd explain it, and the reason being, I just read a couple articles lately of people saying, well, BMI is kind of useless, or just some press about it. So I just thought it'd be a good thing to do is explain what it means. And really, it's just a way of indirectly measuring your body fat percentage. So it uses your weight and your height, and basically it's your weight divided by your height squared, and you get a number. And then the number is used to put you in a category: underweight, normal weight, overweight, or if you're really high on the BMI scale, come in as obese. And it's a really simple measure to use. It's not hard to figure out your weight, and it's not hard to figure out your height. So it's really easy to use.
So I've read, like you just mentioned, it's not an accurate way to measure body fat. What do you think?
Well, because it's an indirect measure of body fat, right? You're making an assumption from height and weight that, yeah, it's not 100% accurate, but at the end of the day, do you really need it to be 100% accurate? If you are trying to track a change, using BMI is a good way to track change, because your height will stay consistent, your weight will change, and conversely, your BMI changes. It also is something that gives you a relative idea of where you're at. You always have to take a grain of salt with these things, because you have to think about the people they used to determine their equations with, and almost always it's college age males who are a huge available resource for scientists to study, because they're at the same universities. And so things can be skewed a little bit differently, but it's accurate enough for most people, definitely.
So my BMI is high and I'm a fit athletic person. What's going on there?
Well, there is the problem with BMI, and this is a case that's not the case for most people. But if you have been strength training for a long time, you're really heavily muscled, and that's going to obviously affect your weight. And BMI doesn't take into account, is it weight from fat, is it weight from muscle? And so you see it all the time with football players and rugby players and hockey players. Their BMI shows them as being overweight, sometimes obese, and then they take their shirts off and they're ripped. So they're not fat. So yeah, for those people, BMI is not the thing to use. But that doesn't mean it's not something that's useful for everyday people.
So can you review how best to use BMI then?
Yeah, use BMI as a tool. It's not the be-all and end-all measurement. If you are just a regular working person and you're starting a fitness program, or you're worried that you're slightly overweight and you would like to see where you're at, and you don't have skin fold calipers and other fancy things, height and weight and using a BMI calculator, it's really simple, and it gives you a decent idea of where you're at. So that's how I would use it. Use it in conjunction with other things like girth measurements and other things if you really want to get specific. But BMI is just a tool, and it's definitely useful.
So would you say that, like, the scale, everyone's focused on how much I weigh, it sort of falls into that same area, doesn't it?
Yeah, but at least BMI, it's it's more involved than just your weight, because when you're standing on a scale, you really have no idea what's inside the bag that's on the scale. You don't know what you're weighing. But at least with BMI, it's got some work behind it and some research behind it and some numbers that you can compare against, and so you're taking into account your height and your weight, and so it gives you a bit better of a picture. But like I said, it's an indirect measure of body fat, and it is not the be all and end all, but it's definitely more useful than just standing on the scale.
And I guess just to finish it off, it's better as a, here's where you were and here's where you are now. It's a relative gauge that's probably more accurate than the scale.
Definitely. And it'll also, it can be a bit of a wake-up call. You can, think you're doing okay, and you can see that your BMI is a little too high, and you're just above the normal zone in the overweight zone. So it could be a place for you to, say, okay, well, I can work a little bit and get into the normal zone, so to speak. So it's useful. It's just take it with a grain of salt.
Cool. So we've been talking with John Bula of Groundwork Athletics in downtown Vancouver. If you want someone who can help you work out safely, efficiently, without hurting yourself, and get to your goals in 2015, these are the guys to call. You can reach John at groundworkathletics.ca, or go to their excellent website, groundworkathletics.ca. Check them out. Give them a call. These are the guys to talk to in downtown Vancouver. Thanks, John.
Thanks so much, Mark.